What are the adjacent and opposite legs to an angle? Given an acute angle in a right triangle, the adjacent leg is a part of the angle, while the opposite leg is across from the angle. The adjacent leg cannot be the hypotenuse. The adjacent leg and the opposite leg will depend on which interior angle you're looking at. These names are used in trigonometry to help you describe which edges and angles you're talking about. Let's draw a right triangle and investigate this further. This is a right triangle. Let's say you're interested in this angle. You can name it alpha. You probably remember that the hypotenuse is opposite the right angle and is always the longest edge in a right triangle. Next, you want to find the adjacent leg to alpha. That would be the leg that is a part of the angle or adjacent to this angle. Now you might think, wait, there are two edges next to this angle, so how do I know which one I should call adjacent? That is a fair question. Well, because this one is the hypotenuse, the longest edge, the other one must be the adjacent leg. In general, the adjacent leg is always the shorter of the two edges of the angle you're working with. Finally, you name the edge that is directly across from the angle, the opposite leg. It makes sense because it is the leg that is opposite the angle. And that's it. You've now named all the edges in this right triangle with respect to the angle alpha. Now, what would happen if you were looking at this angle instead? Let's call this one beta. Well, the hypotenuse is always the longest edge, so it's still the hypotenuse in this case. That will never change. So you want to identify the adjacent leg of beta. Now, this leg is a part of the angle beta, so this is the adjacent leg. Next, this is the leg opposite of the angle beta. That means that it is now the opposite leg. Notice that when you worked with the angle alpha, the adjacent and opposite legs were swapped as you changed your perspective to the angle beta. The hypotenuse was always the longest edge, so it stayed the same. It will be very important later on to always name the edge based on the interior angle you're looking at. Given an acute angle in a right triangle, the adjacent leg is a part of the angle, while the opposite leg is across from the angle. The adjacent leg cannot be the hypotenuse.